Hey everybody, Lance Bell here. Now you probably noticed I got the daily quickie site set up. And that's the reason why I did that today for this video. Because you're going to read along right with me in this rebuttal letter. Now, as you can see here, this popped up in my feed a few days ago. And it says, rubber and heroin in a dying city. Now the reason why I bring this up is this. This has been kind of talk around town online. Now, the Devil Strip on their webpage had a really good rebuttal on this. But somebody like me who's going to do this in video form, we're going to read along and say exactly what it says, and I'm going to break this down for you, my viewers. Now, for the record, as I taped this on the 19th, it was actually posted on the 9th, but I didn't see this until Thursday. So keep that in mind. Now, it says here, in 2001, facing an industry significantly weaker than that it has seen in recent years, the Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company laid off nearly 8,000 employees around the country, mainly in its hometown Akron, Ohio. Okay, now first things first. Back in 2001, okay, let's assume for the instance this number is correct. I'm pretty sure that it is, as far as 8,000. It's referring to 8,000 worldwide. At that point, here in the rubber industry in town, we may have 2,500 people across the board working here. And I bring that because, keep in mind, it's corporate offices are here. That says a lot right there. If I remember correctly, I want to say it was 500, but don't quote me on that. Now, let's see here. Akron is a town that was running rubber since 1898, when Frank Cyberling, established the Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company on the shores of the Cuyahoga River. False. It was the Little Cuyahoga River. So if you're gonna quote that, at least quote that directly. The city thrived in the early days of the rubber boom, when demand of the product was high and there was only a few places manufacturing in the United States. Now that part is true. Now, Harvey Firestone moved his plant from New York to Akron for this reason. But that's a different story for a different day. In the 1960s, the tire industry in America shifted on the response to the new radial tire technology, which that part is true because that came from Michelin in France. Radial tires were stronger and more flexible due to a network of cords reinforcing the rubber, giving it a better shape. But the technology used to build them cost hundreds of millions of dollars. As companies floundered or sought outside funding, Goodyear CEO Charles Pillard chose to keep Goodyear independent. Despite heavy criticism, he invested in new factories and tooling to build a radial tire. The factory in Akron became a technical center, working to stay ahead of the industry research and design curve. Now, hold on. That entire paragraph, as far as the history, is out of order. Now, in 1960s, Michelin did come up with the radial tire. Now, Goodrich saw this and jumped on it. That's where that part is coming from. Now the radial tires did give it a better shape. You know, science proves that. Now, Goodyear already had cross-ply tires. So this is another innovation as far as that. Now, the problem with this is they're using an out-of-order timeline. And it goes in that in the next paragraph. Now, Pillard's strategy wasn't without its flaws. 1986 hemorrhaged $2 billion, to stop a corporate takeover. What they're referring to Sir James Goldsmith, which should be known, you can see it on Wikipedia, it was known here around town, the Goldsmith Affair. That's what that part of that paragraph is referring to. Just one problem. Goodyear was already, let me back it up. The rubber industry here in town was already on the ropes by that point. The 1970s saw massive layoffs around this town. It really honestly did. Because we had the oldest factories. We had super high union rates with the union. Now, unions are a good thing, so don't think I'm bashing unions. They just got greedy in the 1970s. I mean, I think Akron could have survived that entire, as you hear my phone go off, there was a Periscope message there that, and I apologize for that, folks. Let me turn this off. I totally apologize for that. So we saw it firsthand what could happen as far as that. Now, let me see here. After immediate dividends paid by the shift, The cost of transition eventually caught up with the company. The first big layoffs came in 1991. Bullshit. We saw layoffs in this town back in the mid-1970s, and they were absolutely massive. Go watch a documentary on it. I'll link it in the description below. It actually is a really, really good documentary. And the Akron Community Foundation put that together, and that was 15 years ago, if I remember correctly, when that first came out. So I call bullshit right there. That tells you don't know nothing about this town. Now, let's see here. In 1999, Goodyear made a $1 billion deal with Japan's Tsunomito Rubber Industries, establishing joint ventures across the globe, making the world's largest tire company. Just one problem with that. Goodyear, by miles at that point, was number one. It wasn't even close. Hell, even Michelin Continental will tell Michelin Continental even tell you that, you know? When demand dropped at the end of the 90s, in concern with rising oil prices, the 2001 layoffs seemed venerable to the town's struggling residents. Many cling to the hope of a local legend, a high school junior at Akron St. Vincent St. Mary High School named LeBron James. And I also call bullshit on that. And let me tell you why. Akron has always felt like it's been on its own. We do things our own way. We never ask for help. And a lot of that comes from our Southern heritage. And I'm talking like West Virginia Southern heritage. Or a place like that in Appalachia. That is, and any old timer here that lives in town will tell you the exact same thing. I call straight bullshit on that. Now, understand something when it comes to LeBron James. Cleveland and the surrounding areas hinged their bets on LeBron James. Us here in Akron, we just want him to do well and do a good job and just represent the city. That's all we asked him to do. Now, sorry about that, I had to check my sound. So that's a bullshit paragraph right there. Now, into the media's article I want to talk about. In the 90s, during the aftermath of the first Goodyear layoffs we already said is bullshit, Summit County, where Akron sits, began known as the meth capital of Ohio. Okay, now that part is true, and I'll get to that in a moment. Ranking third in the nation in the number of registered meth sites, laid off workers fell into biker gangs that sold the drug out of area bars. It was the city's first drug crisis. It lasted for decades till the next crisis arrived. Now, hold on. Every major American city in the 1980s had to deal with crack. So that's fucking bullshit right there. Now, meth, and I'm saying this growing up in high school in the 90s. I was a shroom guy. A lot of people knew that. I got off the shrooms for different reasons, but I saw the dangers in meth back then. A good friend of mine was made nameless in this video. I had to throw against this wall at his house to get him off the shit. I've had too many friends have their lives wrecked over that bullshit. Don't you fucking dare try to go down that road. Now, bikers? I knew a lot of bikers back then. They couldn't fucking stand it. At least the local ones here. They couldn't stand the shit. They would take their chances on other bullshit from that because they saw the problem also. Now, when driving in Ohio from the northeast, I'm assuming from like New York and points northeast, I'm assuming. As I do now several times a year, one of the first things one sees crossing from the towering Goodyear plant, the headquarters, and then the old factory is a haunting image of Goodyear. Atop a factory, lights blinking or fading, smoke seen to rise out of nowhere, the windows broken or blackened, and in some ways, I know I returned home to a site of advancing promise that I have not been able to articulate in any of my new region. Now, you're referring to the Goodyear sign on East Market Street. Goodyear, as a corporation, and I hope some Goodyear watches this video and confirms this, goes out of their way to make sure that sign works. 2, you're referring to the complex known as Plant 1. Now I'm talking about stuff down River Street, on the backside of Market Street, down Factory, all that stuff down there. You go to any major city in the country that had major manufacturing like that, you get the exact same thing. The big difference is Goodyear actually monitors their stuff. It really does. We're talking about the Goodyear plant itself. Go to Detroit. They don't monitor jack shit in their old factories. And I know you know that. You're a journalist. You had to look that up. And sorry, folks, this got me so worked up, I gotta light a cigarette. You know, on a Friday night in the fall of 2016, Akron reported 21 heroin overdoses. The day before, there were 4 overdose deaths reported in Akron, bringing the total number of deaths due to overdoses that year to 112. Now, that part is true. That last summer, that was a long, and that wasn't even the summer. That was like early fall, so still technically summertime. The summer of 2016, as far as heroin overdoses, was a long, hot summer. Now, down from my apartment, there's a house on Market Street. It talked about the heroin overdose deaths since, I believe, 2009. I think it says 349 when I looked at it this morning. So, there was a lot last year. That part is true. During one particular stretch in July, which they're referring to, there was 236 overdoses reported just in 3 weeks. This was a sharp spike from the period in January through June, where Akron paramedics got 320 overdose calls. In 2015, someone died from overdose every 2 hours and 52 minutes in Ohio. The problem is worse in the northeastern part of the state. River towns, the factory towns, the towns where once was hope are now less. Now look, I did a video on this. Now you go back and watch. I actually talked to the drug dealers, the small-time drug dealers just here in the neighborhood. And here's what they told me. The reason why the bullshit got so big was the following. When they started cutting it, and I'll get to that later on here in a minute, is that it undercut the price of meth, and anybody can get their hands on it. I mean, I see overdoses all the fucking time just walking to work, and that's a sad state of affairs. You know, it is a problem, and I know we're trying, this city really is, but I'm going to continue. Today, heroin becomes inexpensive to make, like I just said, therefore the expensive to purchase, without cutting the high into the high it gives. To make it even cheaper, traffic began cutting with fentanyl, which I was just referring to, a powerful opiate painkiller. Now, fentanyl, I'm pretty sure that's the horse pain pills, I think. Someone even cut their heroin with arrow tranquilizers. I apologize for that. I should have read the next sentence down. Too powerful to consume with the human body was kicked off the influx of overdoses in Akron last year. Now, I will say this. It's not as bad what I've seen in Phoenix. Because down there, they're cutting the heroin with kerosene. Go watch the videos where people's flesh and muscles eaten down to the bone. I won't post them because they're nasty. But that's a fact. I got that confirmed by a lot of people that lived there that I knew when I lived there. There seems no end to it. In towns like Akron, okay, I already read. Okay, let me start that over. I'm sorry. There is seemingly no end to it. In towns like Akron, even smaller towns surrounded, officials begun to throw up their hands just to let the epidemic play out. Bullshit. We're trying. Hoping that there will be a population left when it does. And perhaps hard to look at all this in an historical event, a story of how misfortune echoes down generations. Goodyear have effectively outsourced its labor to places all over the globe. Okay. You have to understand something. This is back to the documentary I was talking about earlier in this video. The rubber companies were in this fight for survival back in the 1970s for a myriad of reasons. It wasn't just unions. It was just that the factories themselves, it was the fact they were cheap to duplicate other parts of the country or the world. There's a lot of other moving parts involved with that. It wasn't just that. You know, but the layoffs in the early 90s and early 2000s had a lasting impact on Akron. There is no story that's just an ending. Akron wasn't always hopeless, it seems now. Who the fuck said that? Honestly. Okay. I had to check my sound again, I apologize. I grew up in this town. I lived in this town. I moved back here twice. This town is not hopeless. We are resourceful. We will survive. We don't need nobody's help. We've always been like that. The people who were laid off in each of those 2 years were parents, neighbors, community members who supported the town to help it thrive. Without their income, the town suffered. Without an ability to move anywhere else. Their struggle passed down to their children. In one decade, 1,000 Akron's working class were rentless, jobless, and the story of the industrialization goes, many of them didn't have the skills transferred out of the factory manufacturing centers trained for. I lived in Ohio. Akron was where you can go see a good rock band and a handful of drunks outside of a corner tell you how great it was in the days and everyone needed tires at all times. Heroin hadn't taken over yet, but the sense of grief and despair that folded into the city when the jobs left were still present. You can see it in children who watch their parents struggle, who are now struggling themselves. Sometimes they're dropping out of school just to keep a roof over their families' heads. Okay, that sentence there, that happens everywhere in every city across the country, so fuck you. Let's see here. Schools and locally owned business closing down. Even with LeBron James, now a megastar, giving back generously to his community, no one's created an industry at large enough to bring back anywhere near the amount of jobs were lost. And even that many jobs appeared with the town so gripped by addiction, there's no telling who can fill them. Now look, I'm going to tell you something right now. You make it sound like this city right now, according to the last census, has 199,000 people. You make it sound like over 2/3, and I'm talking maybe about 170,000 or so, has this heroin problem or drug problem in general. You know damn well that's not the case. You fucking know it. Now, this is how cities die. Not overnight, but slowly, through a series of bad or brilliant or greedy decisions over a long period of time. And a line down the center of Ohio are the state's three major cities, Cleveland, Columbus, Cincinnati. Far from north to south, if you live in one of these cities, it might be easily forget that Ohio is largely made of towns like Akron, or small farm towns that have the same problems Akron has, or some even worse. Ohio, flawed as all states are, has a lot of good, hardworking people who are easily seduced by ideas of promise and hope. Okay. This comes back what I said earlier. Akron is such a different city in the state. You can't lump us with all those. If you had to lump us with another city in the state, I gotta say Dayton, Lima. Dayton or Lima, maybe. I can't say Toledo because they're more close to Detroit in far as like culture, but you can't lump this city with them. You just can't. You know, this is what made Ohio fall in love with Barack Obama, and on the other hand, made them fall in love with Donald Trump. No and no. There's a lot of different issues with that, but that's a different story for a different day. Ohio's a swing state in name only. Bullshit. Ohio, since 1900, has been the swing state. That is historical fact. Look it up. Not in an ethos or ideology. The divide between its rural and urban constituents is too sharp for foster diversity of ethos or ideology. Bullshit. If you put everything on the line in this state, we'll put all our differences aside and make a consensus decision. The state has always been like that. The divide between urban... I read that. 10 miles outside the city, there's often a rural area that feel like an entirely different world, which it does here in Akron. But we were called... Former Mayor Don Pasquale called us the biggest little small town in the country. And that's some truth. We still have that small New England charm with the Appalachian Southern hospitality, with the industrial Midwest attitude. All those lumped in together. So much of the state economy relies on disappearing industrial jobs, the kinds of jobs Donald Trump has promised to bring back. The people here will respond to whoever they can promise a way out of their cities. Cities that are in big ones, and cities that used to be big, but then became smaller and smaller. Okay, meth didn't kill as many people, so Akron's first drug crisis didn't cause the kind of panic this new one has created. Everyone wonders out loud where it came from, how it could happen here, or even the shadow of the old Goodyear factory in Lewisburg town. Of course, I'm not saying that Goodyear's to blame the opiate problem. Well, fuck, you made it sound like it fucking was in the beginning of this article. But things done in the name of progress, in the name of the machine of capitalism we all ride in order to survive, sometimes have a real human consequences. Heroin will likely kill hundreds more before Akron can shake it, if it ever does. Akron has beat a whole lot worse. It really has. People dare say that the town's populations have become so thin that it's no longer appearing to traffickers. Who in the fuck said that? I would like to know who in the fuck said that. Because I want to know. You know, give me a response video. Comment in the comments below if you're watching this on YouTube. If I put this on Facebook, comment there. I want to see who the fuck said this. I was back in Akron last summer, stopping through on my way back to Columbus, where I'm from. In a gas station, a man ahead of me purchased a large stack of rubber gloves. When he left, the attendant shook his head and told me, "That's how you can tell the heroin dealers. They're always buying rubber gloves so their hands get messed up when they're making it. The city of rubber's always making money." Now look, meth and crack is the same fucking thing when it comes to rubber gloves in this town. That tells me right there, you living down in Franklin County, you just don't fucking know what goes on up here. You're just a drive-by. You said you lived here, at least what the article alluded to. You didn't stay here long enough to see what the fuck was going on. This town has always been what I said it's been. Now, as far as the meth standpoint, it wasn't necessarily Akron, it was Springfield Township. And that has been documented up and down. Just look up the articles, do the research, and you, my viewers, will see that for yourself. Sorry, I had to check the sound again. You make it sound like Akron is a lost city. I got news flash for you. We're a lot better off some of the cities here in the immediate 250-mile range. That's for damn sure. You know, this city will be back. It always comes back. It never left. We have too much resilience. We know what it takes. Our independence and our stubbornness will keep us around. We will shake this, like we did crack, like we did for the most part meth. Heroin, as shitty as it is, I've had a lot of friends affected directly or indirectly. Some of my personal friends that I know of has been affected directly and indirectly across the board from just being addicted to death. We're going to make it. We always make it in this town. And I want to applaud the Devil Strip for doing that rebuttal letter, because that was absolutely perfect. But I just wish you'd gone a little bit more in depth. I really, really wish you did. But I don't want to get on here because I'd turn this into a 50-minute fucking rant. And I probably already have by now. Just looking at how much time I've been on here. You know, Akron's not a lost cause. You made it sound like we're ground zero for this shit. And we're not. Like I said earlier, go look at, I saw this shit out in Phoenix. Well, let me back it up. The friends were telling me that I live out in Phoenix, were telling me it's a whole lot worse there than what it is here. You know, we have a lot going on. We always have. We got a lot of stuff in the works. Now, did you know, Ryder, that we have one of the best metro park systems in the country? We've always had that. We go our way to make sure we have that. You know, Hanif is the writer of this article. You know, it's not even an article. This is a fucking hit piece. This is a indirect hit piece. Yeah, I'm all fired up tonight. You know, I see me doing this video while drinking, but I had to fucking talk about this. Because this is a complete and utter bullshit. A straight, indirect fucking hit piece. If you really want to know what goes on in this town, ask us. We'll fucking tell you. You don't even have a clue what's going on in this town. Oh, folks, I'm going to get off here. I know this turned more into a rant than a read-along, but I wanted to address this directly. This is Lance Bell for Real Deal Politics for the Anti-Pundit, and always be careful and remember, fear the real.